Hey everybody, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at the idea of grace, and specifically from a Christian perspective.
Okay.
We found this really interesting Facebook group that focuses on spiritual growth, and they had some unique perspectives. I thought it'd be fun to kind of dive in.
Yeah.
So grace, we've all heard the word.
Mm-hmm.
What does it really mean to you
Well,
when you hear the word?
it's a word we hear a lot, but it can be kind of hard to define sometimes.
Right, yeah, it can feel kind of abstract.
Yeah.
So this Facebook group had this really interesting phrase that I thought really captured something.
Okay.
They described grace as a handshake from God that won't let go.
Oh, wow.
What do you think about that?
That's a powerful image. It's not just, like a fleeting touch. It's a firm grasp.
Right.
It's a commitment.
Yeah, and it makes you think about how that changes your relationship with God. Absolutely. If you believe that he's got this unwavering commitment to you through grace, how does that change
Yeah.
the way you live your life?
I think it really challenges that image of a distant, judgmental God.
Right.
That, some people maybe imagine this is a God who's invested in our well-being, even when we make mistakes.
Even when we mess up.
Exactly.
And they go even further, and they talk about Jesus as being the embodiment of grace. How do we interpret that?
I think that goes back to the idea of grace as a gift. The source material argues that if we weren't worthy, Jesus wouldn't have given himself to us.
Right.
His very existence is this incredible act of love and mercy that was freely given.
Not earned.
Not something we earned.
Yeah. So that brings us to this other point that I thought was really interesting and maybe even a little puzzling.
Yeah.
The source material seems to link the idea of grace with becoming deserving of knowing God.
Okay.
But isn't grace supposed to be about unmerited favor?
Right.
Like receiving something we don't deserve?
That's a really good point. I think this is something that's been debated within Christianity for centuries.
Right.
How do we reconcile the idea of grace as this free gift with the concept of being worthy? I think some theologians would argue that it's through Christ's sacrifice that we become worthy in God's eyes.
Okay.
His grace bridges that gap between our human imperfection and God's divine perfection.
I see.
But others might say that our worthiness is kind of inherent in being God's creation.
It's just by existing.
Regardless of our actions.
Wow.
It's fascinating how one concept can lead to all these different interpretations.
So many different ways of looking at it.
Exactly.
And they captured that in a visual. They said that grace is like God's two hands, Jesus and grace, holding us close to his heart.
Wow. Now that is a beautiful image. It's so personal and intimate.
Right. It's not just about the rules of the doctrine.
Right. It's about that feeling of being loved and cherished.
Embraced.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting, too, because they acknowledged in the post that this might not be the way that everyone thinks about grace.
Sure.
They even say, our terminology might be different from what you're used to.
I think that's really important to acknowledge. There are many ways to approach this. It's a complex idea, and being open to those different perspectives, I think, can really enrich our own faith journey.
Right.
It reminds us that even with concepts we think we understand, there's always more to learn.
There's always more to learn.
Yeah.
So we've explored grace as a handshake from God that won't let go, as a gift, as an invitation. How does all of this make you think about your own relationship with faith? That's something I think we can all ponder.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the mystery and wonder of grace. We'll see you next time.